Hello and welcome to another BookTube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. And today I'm dressed like a picnic blanket. Really love this top. I feel so fun in it. Woo! Today I'm going to be doing a very exciting video. It is my top 10 books of 2017 so far. I love watching people's favourite books of the year. Around just after Christmas, that is like something I'm so pumped to watch, everyone's top 10 books of the year. And then I also like, I know not everyone does it, but midway through the year I just like to do a sort of top 10 books that I've read so far, and I really like comparing my top 10 books from June to the top 10 books of the year at the end of the year to see what still appears and if I'm like, what was I thinking? But these 10 that I've got here are all books that I am super confident that will remain some of my favourite books of forever. Like, I really am pumped by this. As I was getting the pile ready, I was thinking, oh my god, these are all so good. And also I was getting the, I want to reread this really soon feeling. So that's when you know that they're really good. So I've got 10 books here I'm going to be going into details about, 2 of which I haven't got with me, so I will start with those 2. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. Very excited. So the first book, as I said, I haven't got it with me. It is Girls Will Be Girls by Emma O'Toole. I listened to this on Audible, and it is a study on gender and gender as a performance, and just was fantastic. Emma O'Toole is fierce, amazing. She pulled out so many ideas out of my brain that I had already sitting in there, and made them like just opened them up for me, and she's just amazing. So it explains, she goes into detail about things like what happens in schools. What I loved so much about Emma's chat in the book, because it does feel like a big chat, it doesn't feel like an essay, or it doesn't feel like hard non-fiction work. It feels like a big chat. And she was in a place where she's talking about this time, and she's sort of sat up on a bar stool talking to lads that are in this bar that she works in, saying about how, well, I don't think that girls should be given equal rights and things like that, and then has a sort of like realisation and just comes back completely fierce. She's like grows her body hair out, she shaves her head, she's just amazing, and I really love this book, and I've got it on Audible, and I will definitely re-listen to it, just because it just opened my eyes to so many things gender, and led me on a sort of journey of wanting to read so much stuff about gender. So well done, Emma O'Toole. Really love this. Would highly recommend it, which obviously I'm going to say to every single book here on this list. But yeah, really love that one. I'm trying to urge my sister to listen to it because I just think it's super important. I think everyone should listen to it, man, woman or beast. It's just so important and will really highlight some issues for you. So yeah, loved it. The second book I want to talk about is one that I got out from the library. However, I'm going to be looking for a copy of it because I like to own the books that I love, and that is The Post-Birthday World by Lionel Shriver. So The Post-Birthday World is the first Lionel Shriver book that I've read. I'm on a sort of journey. I've got a few more out from the library now, and we'll be reading another one of hers soon. But I loved this story. I loved the story, I loved the characters, and I just loved the writing style, the originality of it. Amazing. So if I tell you what the storyline's about, I doubt that anyone would be like, I'd be interested in that. I doubt that anyone would be like, I'm not very interested in that. It's just such an amazing storyline. So it follows a couple, Irina and Lawrence, and every year every year they go for dinner with their friend Ramsey on his birthday. Now Ramsey is a famous snooker player, and one year Lawrence is unable to make the dinner as he's on a course somewhere else in the world. So Irina goes by herself. In one version of the story, Irina and Ramsey kiss, and in another version of the story, Irina and Ramsey do not kiss. And from then on, there's 2 versions of each chapter, so there'll be 2 chapter 2s, 2 chapter 3s. You get the idea, following the path in which she kissed Ramsey and the path in which she didn't kiss Ramsey. It was amazing. I really loved it. I loved seeing the similarities between the chapters, what still happened, what was completely different. I loved seeing the similarities between Lawrence and Ramsey and the things that still happened in one version of the story and one version of another. I thought it was amazing. I looked into Lionel Shriver a bit afterwards. Obviously, I've been very aware of her for a very long time, but never read anything by her. And one of the quotes I read of her was her saying that she makes characters which are quite hard to love, and I would completely agree with that, because there's no characters in that book that I was like, oh, I love them doing that, and I love that they've all really got their faults, and it was so amazing. I felt like I was spying in on their lives. It felt like amazing gossip almost. Like it just ticked all the boxes, ticked all the buttons, ticked all the boxes for me, and I really loved it. And yeah, I just thought it was amazing, and I really hope that I enjoy the rest of her books as much as I enjoyed the Post-Birthday World, because you know when you first read a book by an author and you absolutely love it and you're like, oh my god, I've got all these other books that she's written, this is going to be amazing. And yeah, that's how I felt. Yeah, I just loved it. I really loved it. So the next 3 are rereads. Now last year I didn't include any rereads in my best books of either midway through the year or at the end of the year, but these 3 I've reread this year and absolutely loved and just devoured them, and I wouldn't be being true to myself, guys, if I didn't include it, because they absolutely are 3 of my most favourite, bestest reads of the year. So the first one is one that I've reread many times, but I feel like it's just it's got to the point where it means the most to me now, being the age that I am, and that is Bridget Jones's Diary by Helen Fielding. So as I said, I've read this probably like 8 or 9 times throughout my life. I think it's hilarious. I love the writing style. I love the fact that it's done in diary entries and it's got different mixed media things in here. It's got emails. It's so chatty. You feel like you're having the best chat with your best mate ever, and it is hilarious. Now, the intro to this is the 20th anniversary edition, published by Picador Classics, and the introduction is done by Caitlin Moran, and it says here, the first line she has is, one of the loveliest things about being a human is that every 5 years or so you get to reread Bridget Jones's Diary, and I truly believe that, because every time I read this I love it more. Now I'm 30 now, and I feel like maybe this is why it's been the best time that I've ever loved it, is because I'm a similar age to Bridget, and I'm sure there's so many people in this world that have read this book, but if you haven't and you've been thinking about it, please read it, because it's so funny. You will not regret it. And I'm not really like big into books that make me like proper laugh out loud, but honestly at some points I'm like I loved it so much. It made me want to rewatch all the films, which are really good adaptations of this. I've got to say, like, the films are done perfectly too. But this is just like a best mate of a book. It's so comforting, it's so fun, and it's just everything I could want in something that I get to treat myself in rereading probably every year now, because it's been a few years since I last reread this, and I loved it. Now I'm sure you're all aware of the plot, but this follows Bridget Jones, a year in her life, following her diary entries. She is someone's screaming outside for Bridget Jones. She is a single she's a single woman, and it follows her and her friends and her mother and father. Her mother is hilarious. She's honestly one of the funniest characters I've ever read in my entire life, and her sort of search for love, and it's brilliant. I really can't rave about it enough. Absolutely adore this book. As I said, the next sort of lot are rereads, and the next one is One by Sarah Crossan. So I read this last year, really loved it, really loved it, gave it 4 stars, but for some reason it didn't appear on any of my best books, so I feel a bit confused why I didn't do that, because this time when I reread it this year for one of my online book club, I just adored it with all my heart. So this is a book that is written in free verse like this, so it really does not take long to read at all. It's a YA book about a set of conjoined twins called Tippy and Grace. It is funny, it is sad, it is like nail biting. There's all the emotions that you can pack in are here. So it follows Tippy and Grace, it follows their family and their friends, and it follows a massive decision that they have to make at the end of this book, and it just broke me at the end. I was just so sad, and I think it's an amazing read. I really love it. It really will not take you long to read at all. This is going to be like top of my list of books for people to read over the summer, because I think it's a really great summer holiday read. It doesn't take long, and you can sort of pick it up and put it down wherever, because you'll always, I felt like I was so connected in with these characters that I always remembered exactly where I was, and yeah, I loved it. I really loved it. So yeah, that made the top books. And then the last reread that made the top books is Ethel and Ernest by Raymond Briggs. This is a graphic novel set from 1928 all the way up to 1971, following a couple called Ethel and Ernest. Here they are, how cute. It follows their life of when they met one another and all the way up until when they die. So obviously there were tears in this. The first time I read this, there were so many tears I had to sort of grip David in the like way. I love the illustrations of it. Oh, look at that, opened it right on Christmas. It really makes me feel cozy and brilliant. So it follows, as I said, throughout their lives, and it follows quite a lot of big events. So governmental changes, the war, things like electricity being brought in, and it just was such a comforting sort of revisit to some of these things that I had sort of tucked away in the back of my head that I remembered about from history lessons at school, or from talking to my grandparents, or talking to my parents, and it was just an absolute treat. And I found it so warming in my tum tum, and thought it was amazing, and really loved it. I feel really protective over this. Like, I feel like I really want everyone to love it, because it was just so cute. And I don't really know if I should be using the word cute, but yeah, just so much feelings for this book, and really loved it. So that is a graphic novel, Ethel and Ernest. So the next two are obviously Daphne du Maurier books. So so far every single Daphne du Maurier book that I've read have appeared in my favourites. That I feel like that's going to go on forever, although I also feel like maybe I've read all the best ones now, so bit nerve-wracking going forward with the rest of them. But the first one is My Cousin Rachel, which has just recently been made into a film, starring Rachel Weisz and Sam Claflin, which I absolutely need to go and watch. So this follows, the story of this is following Philip, who has been brought up by his cousin Ambrose, and they sort of lived a sort of like bachelor lifestyle. Ambrose goes away every summer, and one summer he comes back with one summer he writes to Philip to say he's met this woman Rachel and he's going to marry her and he loves her, etc, etc. Now also Ambrose then goes on to die, and there's a bit of sort of query over how much Rachel could potentially have been involved in his death, and Rachel comes back to the estate that Philip has been living on, and it sort of unfolds from there, Philip and Rachel's relationship. This I've heard mentioned as sort of like the original Gone Girl, and I do totally get that, because this was an absolute page turner. I felt so conflicted the whole way through. I didn't know whether to believe Philip, I didn't know whether to believe Rachel. It kept me guessing right until the end. Rachel is an amazingly well-written character, as are often the case with Daphne du Maurier's characters, but I think she might be my favourite Daphne du Maurier character. I just really loved hearing about her and the way she spoke to Philip in all different situations. I really don't want to ruin this for anyone, so I don't want to go too much into detail, but I've really loved this, and I think if you love Daphne du Maurier, or if you love sort of gothic reads, then you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. The next one is also a Daphne du Maurier book, obviously. It is The Birds by Daphne du Maurier. It's a collection of short stories. I've done a full review on this, and I will link that down below. I've mentioned this millions of times, and I feel like I'm just sort of repeating myself, but this is the sort of short story collection which I've looked at the contents page, and I can tell you every single one of these stories what happened. There's nothing that's fallen out of my brain. They're all amazing stories. Now, the title story, The Birds, is my absolute favourite. It is so atmospheric, and Daphne du Maurier creates such an amazing tension and fear and just everything in 40 pages, like so much amazingness, and the rest of the stories are equally as creepy and as like just weird weird as The Birds. And I sort of read the first, so the first story in this collection is The Birds, and I read that, thought it was amazing, and then thought, oh well, I've got the rest of the collection to read now, almost feeling disappointed. It did not disappoint. It absolutely lived up to the rest. And they just feel like, I can't believe this was written. I don't know when this was written. So, was this... It doesn't say. Oh, hold on. Of course it will. 1952. So it was originally published as The Apple Tree, which is another one of my favourite stories from here. I can't believe these were written in 1952. They feel like they could be written yesterday. Like, she's so, like, for a classic author, she's so, relevant and today. I just love her. I just love her. The next book that I wanted to talk about is one that I've only just finished. I haven't even reviewed this on my channel yet, and it is English Animals by Laura Kay. This I've really sort of strung out reading because I've really loved the characters so much that I didn't want it to end. So much. So I could have finished it so many times because it's such an easy read and really flows over me that I could have literally sat and read it like in one sitting, but I really wanted to last it because I loved all the characters. I didn't want it to end. I haven't had that feeling about a book not wanting it to end for a really, really long time, and I think it's because it's one of these sort of like quiet stories where not much happens, so I could literally just run with it forever and ever. I could just read it for the rest of my life, just seeing what they're getting up to. So this follows a character called Mirka, who is a Slovakian a woman who has been employed by a couple, Richard and Sophie, to what she believes is a job as an au pair. Now, when she gets there, she's not been employed as an au pair. She's been employed as an assistant to Richard, who is a taxidermist. Mirka has sort of big problems with this. She, in the job description, it said, "Would you mind handling dead animals?" And she thought that meant, does she mind handling meat to cook with? So it follows that sort of journey for her and coming to terms with being able to deal with taxidermy and things like that, which she absolutely excels at. And it also follows her relationship with Richard, who she's very, very fond of as a friend, and Sophie, who she has a romantic interest with. And I adored it. Sophie's dad in this is a proper bastard. He's horrible, and I loved reading those bits because they were done so well. I loved reading the bits, just the sort of like quiet bits of them going down the pub to have a meal and things like that. And there was also bits in here which really bothered me. So they live on a game reserve, and they have days where they let people come in and hunt ferrets. Is it called hunt ferrets? Not ferrets. Ferrets, pheasants. Is it called hunt pheasants though? So like where they have to, I've seen it on Downton Abbey, for instance, where they like all the ferrets fly. Ferrets! Stop saying ferrets! Pheasants fly up and they shoot pheasants. And that was really sad to read. There's also another bit in here about a deer dying, a deer getting hit by a car and dying, which I really felt sad about. It's just, I really, really loved this. I thought it was amazing. I really, really enjoyed it, and the cover's really amazing too. So yeah, this was a bit of a surprise to me. I picked it up in any amount of books when I was with Simon and Mercedes. Mercedes was buying it and Simon already had it, so we were like, oh, let's buddy read this. So I sort of picked it up, not really thinking much about it, and it's been a real nice, pleasant surprise for me. Really, really loved it. Amazing debut novel. Well done, Laura Kay. Really, really happy. The penultimate book is also another book about gender, and that is The Gender Games by Juno Dawson. So I read this last month, absolutely loved it. It was just so much interesting stuff about gender. Juno, oh God, it's quite a shiny book, so it's glary here. Juno, when she was born, was assigned to the gender of male and is now a woman. So it's really interesting to hear a perspective on gender from someone who has been a man and has been a woman. And I'm aware that I'm stealing the tagline of this book because it says the problem with men and women from someone who's been both. But I really love this. It was really similar in the way that Girls Will Be Girls, really conversational, really chatty. So many references to the Spice Girls and Buffy and just stuff that I love. And really fucking funny. Like, really, she's a funny woman, Juno, and I really, really love this. And this is another one that I just think things about gender are just so important, and I just urge anyone to just pick up a book, be it this, The Gender Games, or Girls Will Be Girls about gender, because there's so much important stuff in here. And then the last book that I have loved this year so far is, of course, The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. I'm not going to go on too much about this because it is such a popular book on YouTube, on BookTube. You've probably heard about it. It's amazing many times. This was just so atmospheric, and I loved Cora, the main character, and just so interesting to hear sort of like split views about a potential threat from a sort of scientific view and a religious view, and yeah, and that front cover, I mean, you're never going to forget that front cover, are you? Really, really love this. I've bought this for so many people for birthdays and Christmas and things like that. Really, really, really loved it. So those are my top 10 favourite books of 2017 so far. Can't believe we're halfway through the year. Now, there's just one more book I wanted to mention because I picked this up last night, started reading it. I'm not even 100 pages in yet, and I really feel like it's a contender for maybe my favourite book of the year. I'm really, really loving it. And that is The Power by Naomi Alderman. Now, this is a library copy, so I'm definitely going to go and buy myself an actual copy. This has just won the Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction. So originally, when the Bailey's books came out, I had designs to read all of them. That just didn't happen. But I reserved this from the library, and now I know I've got to read it soon, because now it's one, everyone's going to want to read it. And I'm 50 pages in. I am excited about the rest of this book. I'm really, really, really loving it. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of like tag this on the end. Just a little reminder to Lauren in December that you really, really loved that even now. So those are my favourite books of 2017. Would love to hear what your favourite books of 2017 so far have been too. Any of these guys? Did you love any of these guys? Did you hate any of those? And I will see you all again soon for another BookTube video.